So why fetch promise doesn't reject on error responses? That is what we are going to see in this video. So I just came across an article and found something interesting. I mean, most of you might have not experienced JavaScript developers might know about this, but the problem is that if you've been using fetch function in the browser or modern version of Node.js, you know that it returns a promise, right? So this is the promise, and yeah, so let me just highlight this for you. Yeah, as you can see in the JS playground, which by the way is jsplayground.dev, it's a really good playground, JavaScript playground. You can have the web UI as well as the JavaScript console that you can use for learning purposes. So here you can see that I am making a fetch request to JSON placeholder, which is a mock REST API that gives you something to play with, and this returns a promise which is resolved successfully. So this is the successful resolution of the promise, and I'm consoling the promise, and you can see the response in the console, right? So what this article says is how fetch actually works. So for some obscure reason, the promise returned from fetch never rejects when we get an error response. Not only is that confusing, but also forces you to explicitly check the response status before handling the response further. So what it basically means is if the server returns back 404 or 400 or any status code other than 200, it will still be logged in this success scenario, because the promise will resolve successfully if the server returns back something. So let's see what is the success scenario, or what is a promise before that. So when a request returns a promise, we expect its fulfillment state to reflect the state of that request, and the promise resolves if the request is successful, not if the response is successful. Only if the request is not successful, the promise will be rejected, right? So basically, what is the success scenario? So according to the article, this is the basic life cycle of that request. So request is triggered, the request headers are sent, the request body starts streaming, request body finishes streaming, the server sends the response headers, and the response body finishes streaming back to the client, right? So that is the only success scenario in which the promise is resolved successfully, right? That is a success resolution. So the error scenario, I'll tell you how it works. So I will prevent the request from reaching the server. So go to network tab and put the app as offline. Now when I hit play, you can see that it is caught over here. So as you can see, this is the error object that is, printed right here. So that's how fetch is working. So according to the article, again a confusion of intentions. Basically, if we fetch for something like get, which we have done, we expect to get the list of something. Anything else is considered an error, but fetch cannot really assume that, right? Consider the case when you actually expect an error response instead of 200 OK. So that is what is happening, and we have how fetch fails. So we have actually a network error. So network error, and if the request has been aborted, for example, using abort controller is something that can make the fetch fail. And yeah, this is exactly what we have done over here. So Axios works in a different way, because Axios will go into the error scenario. The promise of the Axios will reject if the server returns a status other than 200. So I think error handling and everything is a little bit easier when you use Axios library, but fetch is something that is that's how it inbuilt works, because it's a built-in method in JS. So yeah, that is the whole point of this video. Just wanted to highlight this, and I'll be doing a video of fetch versus Axios, in which scenario you should be using, and the key differences like I just highlighted. So I'll see you in the next video. It will be fetch versus Axios.